seeing whether they qualify or not.
It means so much. Either of these teams could represent us, and I'm sure everyone would be happy, but the fact is someone has to be unhappy with this as we head on in. I think NAVI actually came out quite well in this draft with the fact that they got...
Guideline is not going to be available for Chopped, nor is the Adam Warlock. It's going to be everything that these teams are coming in for, and Chopped, they're going to be happy that they have to always start on domination because they've only lost on it once.
I'm going to be rolling out towards this central point, starting us off of that central meeting table. Trust me, able to find Touzii immediately. They go for a little bit of trading damage, but no one's going to be picked off early. Fate on the Rocket Raccoon here, keeping that AoE healing up and keeping that triple strategist healing output going. Invisible Woman was left available, but they value that BRB a little bit more.
That's a greedy barrage, it feels, from Crazykitty. He took so much damage, and the burst down from the dash means that Jerky is able to turn this into a pretty even-sided, well, not even, one-sided, all cleared up, everybody falling apart from NAVI. The Chopped cut down to size as the point is going to be taken. Just off the back, it feels, of Crazykitty going in deep on the Star-Lord and immediately switching away from it. He's moved over towards the Ultron. Vertigo's moved over to the Invisible Woman, and then Touzii's now on the Torch.
Have decided it is time to take to the skies, giving themselves the double flyer combination. And what do we see on the side of NAVI that can deal with it? Jerky, of course, is going to be able to create a little bit of pressure. Raajaro, if he gets the right angle, could get some good damage output. And of course, that Silent Seduction can be good. Turns out, TrqstMe is sufficient. Naga, I was going to say, has the hit scan as well, but so far, not being needed on the Adam Warlock as TrqstMe is doing the job.
They're going to be reset as well. Jerky is going to make sure that Beetle has to go down too. Chopped wanted to try and group up, but that's 2 for 2. The Crazykitty's dove in and then been eliminated first. It means that these fights for NAVI are just almost too easy for them. They're set up, they're farming up their counter revival for Naga, despite him going down to half HP, instantly healed up from Fate and level 1 Crook.
This is already looking extremely good, up to 57% for NAVI. Chopped starting to make their way in, though. Beetle's causing distraction. You can see once again the lack of aerial counters for NAVI is showing. Dazzle the Butterfly is going to be forced out into the backline, will not find a target. This time, Chopped are grouped up a little bit better and are starting to make some space. Crazykitty on that Ultron sends out that patch onto the Human Torch so they can keep that aerial domination using the tree as cover. Rage of Ultron to pull the trigger. Immediately, the Cosmic Yard Amplifier comes out to try and sustain it. Naga goes down first, quickly self-revives, but Crook is taken out as well.
Oh, Meteor M thrown in onto Naga as the Life Cocoon was already used. He's on 90% of having a counter revival, so that focus from Chopped is actually superb. The problem, however, is that it took them this long to get going. 92% on the board for NAVI. Losing one fight here, Chopped will not have a counter revival themselves to be using, but they managed to get some points on the board. They just can't lose a fight on this first objective.
Going to be seeing this flip coming on in. They still have Freedom Charge. They still have Supernova, Invisible Boundary. This is Chopped with the tools they need to try and hold this. But NAVI, they only need really one tool, and that's Karmic Revival, because if they can burn all of those ultimates from Chopped and then force another fight on neutrals, then they're going to be able to have a good chance of re-flipping this in their favor, already at 92%. Chopped, on the other hand, though, if they can stagger these effectively, they may be able to turn this round. Supernova is going to be the first tool to try and zone out the members of NAVI, keep a little bit of a choke point going, and try and get some of that damage onto the front line with those Vanguards being targeted down. Venom into the back line, Flaming Meteor to try and displace him, try and knock him down. Crazykitty's got a lovely angle here.
Freedom Charge is going to allow this fight to sustain in favor of Chopped still, as NAVI dedicating the fate of both worlds. Camera Revival, if people do start to go down now on the side of NAVI, but Naga's the first one to fall. Life Cocoon is going to try and find somewhere safe to do it. In fact, BR Back is going to bring him back. Instead, it wasn't just a passive, there's just so much that is going to allow them. But he uses the Camera Revival as nobody really goes down nor is eliminated on the side of NAVI. It feels that Chopped have keeping themselves going, at least with this Rage of Ultron, but their offensive capabilities, they're holding back, and I don't think Naga gets much work from it.
This is exactly what NAVI needed to do, though. They forced a neutral fight. Meteor M going to be coming out. Raajaro's build up the Silent Seduction, but with Jerky down, they're out of revives to keep them in this fight. If the Silent Seduction can get any of the backliners, they could maybe turn this, but look at the positioning from Chopped, and NAVI will be deflected, forcing Jerky onto the Strange.
This has been 92% to 0 all the way to 99. Chopped has overtaken him and even forced Jerky to switch over towards the Strange to go for a portal play. So it is going to be OT hit with neutral fights and neutral numbers on the point. A Supernova is going to be available for Touzii, and he's mostly making sure that the Vanguards are going to be under a little bit more heat. The Fate of Both Worlds is going to try to keep it cool, keep them tepid as the world champions might be overheating in this fight. Fate of Both Worlds is also going to be used from Mash as Beetle is brought down to very low health at level 1. Crook is actually able to get the final hit onto him.
Beetle's down. He had ultimately a freedom charge, meaning Vertigo is forced to invisible boundary just to keep Chopped in it as NAVI with the reinforcements are starting to sustain through. Crazykitty with the Rage of Ultron. Meteor M going to come in. Beetle is just going to rush back in on foot because they have that freedom charge. Can they sustain long enough? Vertigo will fall. They may have to swap to Strange to get back in time as Raajaro with the Psionic Seduction to try and take out that front line. Holds DRP's life in their hands. I am Agamotto from Jerky and Chopped are running out of bodies. Beetle's made their way back in, but with freedom charge down and no strategist outside of Crazykitty, the healing output isn't enough. NAVI, Karmic Revival, just to be sure. They're chasing down the last remaining Ultron, but here comes the portal for last second flips on 99 to 99. TrqstMe has that beast from the abyss, but Chopped are just coming in one at a time. Wolverine could be a good pickup here to buy some time, but with Crazykitty down, numbers are in favor of NAVI as they hold this through. Touzii taken out coming through the portal. Jerky is burning through the counter Strange to take out Vertigo, and it's gonna be NAVI holding on point 1.
Just at the brink consistently. I like the idea of Beetle moving over to the Wolverine, knowing that NAVI have switched over to free.
Look, that's been so impactful for them so far, taking, of course, in NAVI a little bit of an extra sustained role here that would have sometimes been filled by Melio before those roster swaps before stage 2.
It's a pretty middle of the pack composition for Chop now as the DRP's been on the Magneto. Just me looking for the dives, but let's be careful that Vertigo with the force physics on this invisible woman isn't just going to pull him back into the fray as he tries to leave. But it's a deep dive, goes in, you've got at least some protection and mitigation as the Feast of the Abyss actually doesn't catch on to much from TrqstMe. The Eternal Bond is going to be used to sort of allow a path for NAVI to go and fight past and across this point, and that focus on Mash does result in the pick in the end.
Fate doing some huge work there with that Terracate Supernova coming out early from Touzii to try and turn this round. They have been the difference maker multiple times before, but it looks like they will be forced to retreat here. Back to their team. TrqstMe is actually sent off the map there with the force physics from Vertigo, which does help even it up for Chopped a little, but the point is in control of Natas Vincere.
NAVI only losing on domination twice so far this stage, and just once from Chopped. It was that final map against Virtus Pro that confirmed VP's position to Atlanta. Don't want this to become a bit of a poison chalice for Chopped. They could not lose on it. Now they might be stringing a couple of losses together in the end if they don't sort their act out here. Jerky going in with the Dance to Butterflies does catch up Beetle just shy of having his ultimate in use again. The Captain America not quite connecting to have that sustain, but he's going to be back into the fight, into the fray fairly soon. The problem, however, is that Chopped are still fighting this. It's not really leading to any picks on their end, and in fact, TrqstMe is finding those eliminations himself on the other side whilst that clock is ticking to 50% on progression.
And we may end up in a similar situation here where Chopped are able to flip it, but it might be too late. They're going to have to regroup. With 3 members down, NAVI keep control. They already have Karmic Revival. If Naga can stay safe, they have everything they need to keep this game under their foot. But if Chopped can try and get rid of Naga, keep the pressure on him, especially Crazykitty, this will be their job, then they might be able to make something happen and turn this round to at least get some percentage on the board.
These are the tense moments for Chopped, because I can imagine that the comms are a little bit quiet whilst they try and get set up for these next fights, and that's when the thoughts start to creep in of like, look at where you are, look at what we can win, but look at what we can lose if this goes wrong. The Rage of Ultron is going to be used first from Crazykitty, mostly to keep him team going, but that first Vanguard has been taken out. Karmic Revival, though, however, is going to bring TrqstMe back into the fold. There comes the Freedom Charge for Beetle, and it's mostly to keep himself alive. He's taking a good brunt of damage as Touzii tries to help with a little bit more space. He's almost getting the picks onto the likes of Naga and TrqstMe, and eventually just catch on to level 1 Crook. But it's still NAVI fighting this one. It's still in their control at 99%. It does take everything for Chop to do similar to the first point, Tetcher. Take it from 0 to 99 again.
Touzii is making it happen, though. Picking up one by one, holding this together. Naga's going to self-revive to burn this through because currently Chop don't have a lot of people on the board. DRP is making space. TrqstMe is dropped low. Portal coming back in, and this will likely secure it for Chopped. But having to burn Portal for it when the fight was mostly even shows just how many resources that Chopped are having to throw at Navi because TrqstMe is keeping the delays going. Naga returning even without Karmic Revival to keep bodies on the point, and Jerky dueling with Touzii while keeping Touzii away from the fight. Chopped are just burning more resources than Navi each time.
Eventually, it's enough resources to take the point, but it has to be faultless yet again. That's the concern here for Chopped, is similar to what Navi were able to do. If they can bank some ultimates together, they just will have enough about them to retake this at 99% and make it a 2-point win on this first map.
Raajaro pushing forward, getting a lot of damage onto DRP. Vertigo almost got in position. That's about the force physics. Rage of Ultron to pull the trigger, as well as a Feast from the Abyss on the other side from TrqstMe. Diving into the backline to try and create some space, actually protecting their own strategists to keep this fight going in their favor. A lot of damage is being dropped out, but this triple strategist on both sides. Healing output is a little too much to deal with at this stage without some ultimates. Freedom charge for some bonus health, which Vertigo needs, but they can't get to him in time. Beetle, they could not do this all day. They were just arriving a bit too late.
Trying to cut back and through. It's Jerky full on blasting through if he can get it. Sign of Seduction is going to be used as well.
Touzii keeping the damage going, trying to keep them on the board as a Karmic Revival from Naga, buys every extra second needed, gets for the Pyro Prison to control the location. Raajaro buying more time with the Cosmic Yard Amplifier coming out. TrqstMe taken down. DRP is having to put so much effort into holding the line, but Raajaro is piling on too much pressure. The Diamond form, Emma Frost can't buy a win, but they can just take one through skill. Beetle falls. Jerky trying to get onto the torch. They rushed out to hold the overtime. Mash gonna look to try and portal. DRP is literally rushing in on Angela to try and touch to give time for the portal. The body blocks. They make it in time, but the portal cannot reach.
Navi fighting it on to the end. And there just wasn't enough room for Chop to work with. When they lose out on those first points of domination, you're just fighting uphill. And this point, a little bit more in favor of Navi as the last one, the first point that we just saw. But the world champions making sure that they make no mistakes in this qualifying game, start off on domination with a good win against the kids that were so good on this game mode, now losing it twice in a row.
NAVI, they seem to have locked back in. This was pretty solid. There was some momentful allowing you to get one-shot combos onto stuff like the Lunar Snow, stuff like the Mantis, and especially the Venom as well, which is why we see it comboed so effectively with Magneto, which is exactly what Chopped are looking to go for. Let's see how it works out as Chopped begin their rollout. They are starting off with a cosmic fastball. Crazykitty looking to be sent flying. Naga needs to be careful not to get caught out. You can see Beetle hiding off to the side with this thing. Sends out the Wolverine, sends out Crazykitty, who will not find a target. They're just going to reset. Beetle after the throw swaps over to the Groot. Not really wanting to try and run head first onto a defended objective with the thing.
Now Naga's going to try and hold off. Not really being under that much pressure, but just making sure the Chopped can't engage him on the high ground. Raajaro, especially alongside this Mantis, Jerky does take a lot of damage. Very lucky to not go down, but those damage boosts onto a 100 charge Raajaro, and the Emma Frost is just going to melt that front line. Even with all of the walls that Beetle can throw down as Groot, it's not going to give you too much protection, and it's going to force a lot of mitigation outside of DRP. This fight is not being tame at all from Naga. He's not afraid to go in and dive, even though that the picks are starting to trade outside.
Naga Galactic Legend going to be dropped quite early, hoping that with the amount of damage they've done that they've managed to outplay some of these strategists, and they did for a while, but no overlap. Chopped. They get them both off cooldown so quickly that they were panicking, thinking the other one wouldn't be there in time. They drop both at the same time, and as such, Chopped have no defensive tools left, but it might be enough. Level 1 Crook is down. TrqstMe returning to the point with the Feast from the Abyss. Regeneration Domain is going to expire, and it looks like NAVI are starting to make it work. DRP and Beetle fall. crazykitty drops low, and Chopped with those defensive tools taken away. They are taken down. Level 1 Crook, though, also goes down for the second time in one fight.
And he still manages to keep the ultimate too. He's just throwing bodies. I mean, that's one thing that you could certainly say about Citadel Gaming, of just the way that they can efficiently throw themselves at the point to keep it stalled out. It's going to work just in the nick of time, because 95% was grabbed for Chopped. Want to try and push this a little bit further than being full held on first point, and Soul Resurgence from Jerky is going to allow Naga a brief chance to go in for these barrages. It's not only doing damage to the backlines and forcing out some of these bigger cooldowns, but it is maintaining the tempo with those ultimates, as a Galactic Legend for Naga is at 90%.
But Jerky is down, but they are outnumbered. Last stand coming in, and crazykitty just peeled open this point. Here comes a Fate of Both Worlds, taken by the God of Mischief from Level 1 Crook, allowing Naga to chase down everyone else as they retreat, gets the double, and that's going to keep NAVI in defense of this point as numbers go their favor. Naga barely escapes, but it's Fate who's picking up the final hits. They're trying to stagger DRP, and that is massively slowing down Chopped.
There's only a minute left, and Naga is just farming up these ultimates so quickly. It shouldn't be that allowed, really, for Naga to be able to go in and go for these barrages and not just be CC'd out of them, or at least punished, especially when there's no bulwark from a Magneto to protect him. The Magneto's on the other side from DRP. Now you just have to find some way of opening. You've got a great composition to just force the fight onto the point itself, but Beetle wants that strangling prison. He wants to really grab everybody together, but that flying nuisance is being swatted down from crazykitty's Wolverine. The Feral Leap catching onto the right kind of target. Now all of the bodies from NAVI are going to be there to contest.
Fate taking down Jerky, taking down the backline of NAVI is disintegrating here. And Raajaro, they have that Eye of Agamotto, but they can't use it. Getting completely eliminated. Strangling Prison, just not needed right now. Naga is out of there. Not even going to attempt to try and contest that, because Chopped just walked that one.
Eye of Agamotto isn't going to be used at all from Raajaro. He's going to switch over towards the Emma Frost now that the portal is on cooldown. But because of that swap at full ult charge, it's now 50% of the way to a Silent Seduction, which they can get that up as soon as possible. You could take very early fights here. That's what the meta has been on this second point of Central Park. Just get in there and make sure that Chopped are pushed all the way back towards attacker's spawn. Just buy as much time as you can. And the leaping from TrqstMe alongside the Feast of the Abyss means that that backline is under enough pressure. Mash gets taken out, nowhere near having that Fate of Both Worlds. And Chopped not really having much that they want to dedicate to this fight. Still farming up the ultimates. The Strangling Prison used from Beetle. He wants to go for the offensive here.
He's creating space. He's able to pick off one, and as such, the numbers stay equal. crazykitty moves over to the Winter Soldier, and finally, Chopped create an opening. The car continues to move forward, but this is NAVI now being able to reinforce. They can contest this one more time, and still have enough time for a portal that will be coming off cooldown extremely shortly.
DRP's fine Jerky, though. It seems that NAVI have tried to reset a little bit. They overextended and now being picked off one at a time. Not being afraid for TrqstMe to go in for the dive, and the Silent Seduction is pretty much fully dedicated to just CCing him, holding him down. Meteor M might put him out of his misery, but the dodge is good enough for Naga to just try to get away. He has the Galactic Legend, but he's holding on to it. He wants stuff like this invisible boundary out the hands of Vertigo, and if Mash follows up with a Fate of Both Worlds, which I imagine Naga expects, that's when he'll start to fly.
Fate drops their own as well. In comes Naga with the Blaster Barrage. Pulled in. Bionica. Trooper's Fist. But still with the invulnerability phase. Rolls right into a straggling prison. Kraken Impact opens up the team. Resetting off the Loki clone. Almost misses it. But still holding the line. The freeze onto TrqstMe adds one more to the pile. And back in. Jerky has nowhere to run. The point is going down. Enstock Inferno comes in as the portal. Attempted from Chopped for the delay. Sorry, from NAVI. Raajaro cleaned out, though, the body box on the point, and it is point 2 taken by Chopped.
And crazykitty just jumping through the portal to see if he can get those old spawn players. NAVI, they had a win condition, right? Go over that Galactic Legend once the Strategist Ultimates are out. But I love that Beetle used that timing. Like, actually, gotta say, these Strangling Prisons from Beetle have been exceptional to keep them in it. It felt that Chopped might run out of steam, but they actually go on the offensive afterwards. But DRP keeps finding these picks. NAVI are just free-falling with their numbers being reset. Jerky's able to at least trade out one. But this can't be the setup for the world champions. They're getting picked off in the neutral.
Jerky's able to get onto DRP. They've abandoned the Mantis. The Psylocke for some extra damage output. Face from the Abyss to chase on down. But crazykitty is adding the crowd control to try and deal with this, to try and chase them off that point and try and deal with this Venom, who's able to grab the map heal, keep the sustain up as they keep the pressure on, and TrqstMe will fall. But they're fighting so far off the point right now. The point was stalled for the entire duration of that fight, but with 2 people down, they're still going to get the duration and the distance. Fate has been sent off the side.
Yeah, Vertigo just pulls him down into the Abyss. So now, again, it feels that now if he just don't hold on this at all, they're trying to jump on him, but it's like they've got anything else together. Naga has still got that Galactic Legend. He's not used it since the second point. And now TrqstMe trying to dive in immediately, has to dive out, but he's still wanting to fight. It's at the end.
Trying to hold on to the point. TrqstMe is dropped low. Raajaro has that Sonic Seduction, which could be used for a little bit of a delay, a little bit of congestion here, as right now we're seeing them pull, diving in to the backline for the setup, Dance of the Butterfly to weaken them all, but with no face in the Abyss, they don't have enough damage to pull them in. A beautiful hook coming in once again from crazykitty, but they're able to get out of danger. Jerky surviving this. Meteor is going to be sent, but finds nothing. The Sonic Seduction from Raajaro is enough to try and clean them out. Crack and impact. Jerky will fall, but crazykitty isn't finding resets, and Naga, timed with the end of the invisible boundary, comes on in with the Galactic Legend. The world champions are able to hold on point 2.
That's what NAVI were waiting for. I remember us casting them on their first game of the group stages, Tetra, and it's like NAVI have this very protocoled approach. Get everything out. Desti approach with the offensive capabilities. crazykitty using an invisible boundary and then a Kraken's impact to sort of go through it and catch NAVI by surprise, maybe.
Tactics that they do need. And of course, if you can take other people off the map, you hold that first point for even longer.
All you need to do is capture the mission area. Got it?
TrqstMe going for the runaround. Be joined by Jerky. I mean, a lot of players actually be able to get into these flanks, including Magic. There's one I learned. I think Helis had a rollout that everybody was using. Just to be able to get in behind and try to catch Chopped. A little bit paranoid. Showing some presence, seeing what information that they can get, whilst the rest of NAVI is just posturing. Breaking some of these walls, and TrqstMe's relaying all of this information in the dark as well. You can see him in the corner, trying to be the light for the team to find out opening onto the attack.
Going in, trying to take out the Phoenix, but already Jerky falls. They tried to go for the 2 versus 2, but they get completely countered out here. Level 1 Crook's going to fall, and NAVI, this first attack is going to be repelled very casually. Even TrqstMe falls in that backline.
Still triple strategist. Luna, Invisible Woman, and Jeff for Chopped. Crossfiring enough, playing from the high ground, maintaining the fact that NAVI are going to struggle to dive in onto them. And TrqstMe moving away from that Venom that was protected to go for the fall. For something a little bit more on the point, Saturday Night Fever. Just hoping to take a few more chunks out of Chopped's defense and forcing them onto the point away from this high ground.
Naga dropped low, but able to roll out, gets that bonus health now, which is always fantastic, while also getting vulnerability frames. Meaning Naga can take these duels for a little bit longer, has that idle aura, keeping them topped up, and needs more healing. Forced to roll out, forced to retreat, and sets down that astral jump for the escape. Straggling prison from Beetle for the setup. Raajaro unable to find the target. Jerky falls down, meaning no Battle Rebirth Beacon, and it's going to be NAVI forced off the point. TrqstMe moves over to the Thorn to try and give them some kind of displacement, because Chopped are currently completely blocking them out.
Now Chopped, the defense is holding on nicely for NAVI. Might start to stress a little bit more. Raajaro on that Emma Frost now. And it does feel a little bit like, yeah, you've banked up some of these ultimates. Are you going to sort of be well aware that Mash and Vertigo aren't quite there with their own support ults to work with? Was this going to be Naga waiting in the wings with that Galactic Legend and potentially waiting a bit too long again?
TrqstMe going to be moving into that backline, setting up. They're almost at that God of Thunder to see if they can take out the backline, if they can wait out for the end of this Awakening Rune to try and set up. It's Jeff looking for the defender, looking for the attackers in the backline. Finds Groot and Emma, but those are their own team, protecting them from the God of Thunder, saving them from the damage output. TrqstMe falls, Crook falls, Vertigo is finally taken out by Raajaro, but Naga finds nothing. Raajaro is currently just having to solo this. They are taking down 2, keeping the point contested with the extra sustain and the healing output that they are getting from Jerky, who's returned on the Invisible Woman just to keep this fight going every second longer. The point is ticking up slowly but steadily, straggling Prison to try and stop the rampage of Raajaro. TrqstMe returns, Naga finds Beetle, and the point ticks up. Beetle might be looking for a reinforcement. They're trying to knock DRP off the point to prevent the delay and stop that portal coming back in, but here comes Chopped with 38 seconds remaining, and Beetle brings back the team.
Oh, the portal just to go for a final hold on for Chopped. Galactic Legend, there it comes. It's been held on to for so much time, but the eliminations aren't necessarily streaking together. In fact, Mash is able to take him out, so Navi now might start to be in a bit of a mad dash themselves to try and touch the point. There's only 15 seconds left, and Chopped's now going to try and rush them down to stop Naga from setting up with the portal.
They're running out of time. This is Navi's last chance. Otherwise, we're going to be evening up the map score. Going to try and interrupt that portal. Touzii will fall with his numbers advantage. Naga up to the high ground, up to crazykitty as they try and hold onto that low ground. If they get rid of that Jet, that's a huge amount of healing taken out. Good freeze onto the Thorn to give extra seconds. Psionic Seduction onto Beetle to buy extra time, but the Fate of both worlds is keeping everyone topped up. Can they get enough damage output from this? Into the backline, trying to chase down Mash. God of Thunder takes Mash down as they dive onto those Vanguards with the healing output massively reduced. The Awakening Rune and Thor, the God of Thunder. Their prayers have been answered.
So now this is a big test for Chopped. Honestly, they almost full held on NAVI and maybe brought this BO5 into a 1-1. But eventually, it's just enough about the world champions to keep themselves alive on Central Park. For Chopped now, they don't want to lose this point. They still have to hold just before the end of this map. Second could give them so much of a chance. It did against Virtus Pro. They just need to keep themselves level-headed and not start to panic, and that's difficult when you've got the God of Thunder getting into your face, looking for a little bit more of a level-headed fight. DRP having a Meteor M might be looking to see if he can get into some of the strategist backlines, but there's just this battle happening in the castle, the alcove on the outside, as DRP finds himself another first elimination in these neutral fights.
Ash for Naga traded out here. It's Jeff onto the point, grabs the Thorn out of this, and crazykitty tries to get away, trying to take out someone. It's TrqstMe who will actually fall, and crazykitty trying to take him off the edge, Coca Levitation, but you cannot survive the hose.
Now looking at it for NAVI, don't have control of the objective anymore, and I think it's pretty much just on this 90-degree angle. Forces everybody on NAVI to be quite low down, and they don't have a choice to go for something like a Jean Grey, I don't believe. They have Torch and stuff. You could go for something a little bit more in the air and aerial threat, but you're also lacking an Ultron, so it seems to be just boots on the ground, fighting at face level. Raajaro does have the Eye of Agamotto. You can see that he's thinking about trying to line up. How many possibilities are going to lead with Raajaro finding the picks needed here for NAVI to keep this going, especially with 40 seconds left and after losing Crook?
That's going to remove a lot of their healing and a lot of extra damage from that allied inspiration. TrqstMe dropped low as well, trying to use their Storm Surges for bonus HP. Awakening Rune is also buying them a little bit of extra time, but it's going to end up being a retreat from NAVI, waiting for level 1 Crook to reinforce, but with only 20 seconds left, have they got time to waste? Beetle just finished charging up that straggling prison, and NAVI have to pull the trigger, or we are heading into game 3 evened up. Media M looking in for the backline, sent blind to see if they can catch someone, crack an impact to try and lock them down, but Naga finds nothing. If Raajaro can get this Eye of Agamotto, though, that could buy them the extra time. Invisible boundary for the lockdown on both sides. Sent indeed, force physics to send them back. Touzii with the Endsong Inferno to send on down, catches TrqstMe midair, You may be a god, but your prayers aren't being listened to as Touzii dives on deep and proceeds to pick off one by one, and Chopped are evening up the score.
It's Central Park. It was their choice and they made it work. NAVI pretty much on the back foot entirely on that attacking side, taking first point in OT. It just left them not much to work with when the payload was still just on the low ground, not even really scaring the likes of Touzii and the rest of Chopped. Speaking of which, he is perfect to finding the picks at the right time, usually off the back of an ultimate. That was mostly, I think, on the side of Naga when we saw the stuff like the Galactic Legends from Star-Lord. But Touzii, those picks that come in from Phoenix right at the end, him and DRP. I think the cool thing about this, Tetra, now that we're seeing this kind of draft in play, it's not like the comps are the same every single time. There's so much variance in the characters in play, certainly for the Vanguards and the Strategists.
But this is the opportunity where they can actually play a little bit more in the duelist variety, as well as the spawn hold maps give the...
Is that going to be part of the plan? No, it's Moon Knight that's going to just be holding the mouse number one with the Axe to sort of spread out some of this damage. NAVI is attacking first, and Beetle really did a lot with the Strangling Prisons on the Groot. He is in a matchup, though, for TrqstMe. The Venom is available to him, but on this point when it's such level ground, they just want to fight it head on.
And Beetle almost feels like they're out here alone. The strategists doing their best job to try and keep them topped up. But that is because we are seeing Chopped run a 2-1-3 with Touzii sticking with the Phoenix. Not going to be moving on to a Vanguard or a strategist here. Just going to continue to try and pit out damage NAVI, who are once again going to be adjusting to a more standard composition, realizing they're not up against a really hard spawn hold. They're just playing a normal game. So it's time to bring out the Star-Lord. It's time to bring out the Wolverine to try and trap that Groot.
It might be just general gut feeling, but I feel like Mash is finding a lot of these final hits. Certainly for a Lunar Snow, it feels that his name is coming up in the elimination feed a decent amount. And it just means that, like, everybody's focusing on the right targets. And in a fight where Chopped were looking to back out a little bit, Beetle surviving by the skin of his teeth if he has them as Groot. I don't want to really think about it. But it's the fact that they're able to counterattack and take on these engagements. The Strangling Prison is going to be good. And whilst NAVI have actually pushed up, Touzii's going for such an aggressive play by going in for the flank. The Strangling Prison of the wall is going to try and separate some of these sightlines. And just again, Touzii gets the perfect pick at the perfect time. He gets onto Naga just as the invisible boundary comes up from Crook.
Who's stopping him? He's just pegging away. TrqstMe's finally going to turn around and try and do some damage to him, but Touzii is literally just hanging out. He's having a lovely time doing damage while the rest of Chopped continue to delay this as long as possible. Strangling Prison was good. They didn't find as many finishing blows as they might have otherwise liked, but they forced out an invisible boundary. They still stalled the cart for quite a bit, and now they've been able to pull back, regroup, and they're still keeping this cart held.
Ooh, Touzii might have got a bit more than he bargained for, even if he had some of the support from crazykitty. He goes down as well. Naga 1 versus 2, battling in the corridors, able to find some space for NAVI, who were struggling a little bit on making that progression. And Chopped, they have 5 ultimates to sit back on. It seemed that they were sitting pretty, but losing 2 players like that might cause a little bit more of a pandemonium.
They are starting to creep back forward again. Beetle setting up a double Groot wall to give room for the rest of the team to step out forward. Strangling Prison not at the ready, so they have to rely on other engage tools like that Media M, like an It's Jeff, and it's going to be the Silent Seduction that's going to be the first trigger pull. DRP with a Media M into the backline, turns it instead directly onto Raajaro to try and burst through the attack, and Touzii is on the flank again in the melee form, doing as much damage as they can while it's still available. Endsong Inferno from directly above, waiting for the expiration of the invisible boundary, nukes them from above. The life energy of the Phoenix Force being used for its antithesis as they burn through the attackers, and NAVI are melted off the board once again.
Yeah, Touzii melting off the attackers, but also burning down the wick. Less than a minute for NAVI now. You're looking at least at having Strange possibly an option to go for a portal play, especially with how far away that payload is. But you just feel like Chopped are going to be expecting this. These are the kind of moments where they sort of look the better team, but NAVI have the experience to break through from just attrition alone. There's not really going to be many ultimates to help them either as we hit the 20-second mark.
Barnacook tried to look for a turnaround to see if they could get isolation, but they did not flick quick enough, so they weren't able to pull them even further. Creeping forward, and while we are starting to see Navi creep that cart forward, they haven't moved in quite a while. Here comes it's Jeff looking for the attackers. What a Dark Force teleport! That was beautiful, Fate. crazykitty gets sniped off the point. Naga is taking out the defenders, and Navi creeping on in. They're able to take that first point.
Seems to be more of the same, but like Central Park, we can't see Chopped full holding. It goes down to the wick again, but Navi playing around it very nicely. But like Central Park, maybe there's a chance for Chopped to stop the action here, just like we saw from Citadel Gaming a little bit earlier. But Navi, you can see how much space they're trying to take already past this like horseshoe that the cat needs to move around, trying to spot where this offensive is going to come in from Chopped. The RP up on the high ground is going to be forced back down off of it, but the Ensong Inferno is going to try to come through, as well as Meteor M. That combination not in sync at all, just the ultimates used at the right time but in different places and different spots. Kraken's impact is going to be a little bit more concentrated firepower for Navi, but the numbers are still there for Chop to be fighting into this. Silent Seduction is going to try and pull them back in, but there is some at least protection from Chops with the Fate of Both Worlds.
Mash buying as much time as they can, but Navi once again reinforcing, making their way back in and start to make their way down the ramp, looking to try and push Beetle back. We don't need to deal with the walls if we make sure that the Groot isn't there to capitalize off them. So it's hyper aggression from Navi right now, as Beetle is trying to create some space for himself, and that fantastic car is creeping in step by step, 69% of the way towards the straggling prison. It's Jeff also around the corner, but Fate taken down as Touzii continues to be a menace.
He's so good in these clutch moments, even though it's not really the end of it for Navi. 50 seconds now. And there's not really too much for Chop to rely on ultimate-wise yet either. Strangler Prison is pretty close up. It's just I'm always nervous about Navi in these fights because they always have enough about them. But Chopped, it is just a mad scramble to get whatever ultimates they can online and not give up these picks for free. Everybody's playing so safe, so conservatively on this defense. And for Navi, it's everybody just grabbing onto the point, using whatever they have to keep it going as we hit 20 seconds again.
Bird up, set to the sky, invisible boundary, Meteor M for DRP, takes out Naga, buys some extra time, straggling Prison onto the backliners to try and burst on through, and it's a huge chunk of damage, trying to focus onto Fate, who's forced to use the Eternal Bond to buy every extra second they can. It's Jeff to try and catch them and take them off the board, trying to flee, crazykitty heading to the underground, because Fate is late for a trade. Double teleport!
Was he able to actually get out, or is he still going to go down? No, I think Fate is still fighting this one down to full HP, and so Jerky is actually able to cut through. crazykitty couldn't get anything with the ultimate at all, and this isn't quite the second checkpoint for Navi, but overtime and the numbers are looking decent for them to keep a hold on this. Chopped, forcing it to the end again, Tetcher, but they just can't put it to bed.
Overtime ticks down, but the point is taken. We exit the underground into the basement of the Fisk building as we make our way towards Avengers Tower, the final point. And Navi, they don't have a lot of time, 1 minute and 15 seconds, but Chops, like you say, they keep dragging them out to this overtime. They keep burning the wick on the candle, but they just cannot seem to get the finishing blow. Navi are relentless. They keep reinforcing. They've still got Doctor Strange being played by Naga, so they're currently on a 3-1-2 situation.
Now Chops, under the unrelenting force of Jerky, that's just trying to force back some of this defense away from these like 90-degree angles where these flanks can come in, where you have to be scared about where Touzii is playing from. He is the sole duelist on this team right now, as the triple strategist is in play from crazykitty. Meteor M looking to see what kind of tag he can get, but it's blocked masterfully from Raajaro just off the back of the Silent Seduction, able to keep his team alive.
Touzii has found himself a lovely perch, like the Phoenix that sits upon their shoulder, to try and spot everyone using that third-person camera to see if they can go away again for a flank. They are spotted, though, but they still matter, diving on in from the backline, looking for the Vanguards. Naga's going to just try and body block them. They wrap around, going for the Tokyo Drift, able to escape out of danger here and help chase back the members of NAVI, who have to use the Eye of Agamotto to try and contest this on the point, but Touzii's in the backline with the melee weaves, getting the extra sparks, the extra damage output. It's Jeff to remove the attackers from the point, grabs 1 for 1 to try and delay this, but the Fate of both worlds coming in from Fate, the Eternal Bond, sorry, to give every extra second they can, and Strange not making it into the spawn. They sustain through, but if Naga goes down, is Portal available? It will still be on cooldown, so they have no reinforcements.
Oh, this is a weird fight, but Naga goes down. He's going to be out for 12 seconds before Portal can maybe come in. But NAVI, they were in OT for the first and second checkpoint, able to force it to the end. Now it feels that that steam is going to just run out a little bit more. Finally, Chopped could stop this payload moving, but there's going to be that thought in the back of their heads, Tetcher, that's thinking we could have done this on first.
They really could have. There were several opportunities where this could have gone either way multiple times. This
protection. Oh, not even protection. I think it was just a one-way ban from Chopped right at the end of this draft. It's working quite well. Touzii's able to go for some
with damage boost. What they like doing is completely displacing and disjointing defenders. crazykitty on Wolverine. They've got Touzii on the Winter Soldier. We don't care how much healing you have if you're not near your healers.
NAVI wanted to try to stay in sightline of each other mostly, going in for these dives, which, oh my god, trust me, overextends massively. He was maybe expecting a little bit more support, but no. Chopped with all of that CC, almost just waiting for the fish to take the bait and then yank him out of existence. So now NAVI are still fighting this one to play it down. It's not going to be too long before they have that Captain America back in the fight. In fact, he's here. It's like he never left. He's gone back in to try and finish what he started, but immediately the focus is there. And the revenge from TrqstMe in an earshot, able to smash his way into a good few picks as Chop has to reset.
I'd say you can do this all day, but it's very clearly nighttime, as we are just going to see NAVI completely shutting down Chopped at this early push. But Chopped already about halfway through this first point have been able to set themselves up nicely, and it's only going to take one mistake for crazykitty or Touzii to shut down NAVI and create a cascade effect of eliminations.
TrqstMe's pretty much IGL in this team, relaying this information of where this dive wants to come in. Just wants to be annoying. He's happy to sort of take that focus because he wants the 2 free players have Chopped on this payload to turn around and deal with him. Even if he gets eliminated, he's going to be back into the fight fairly quickly. Look how much focus and attention he's taking, and even the Bionic Hook dedicated. It means that NAVI have at least a chance to take the head-on fights with a player advantage. The leap is going to bring on level 1 Crook into the action, but he gets the Soul Resurgence out just beforehand. Unfortunately, however, he goes down quickly. The be right back's going to bring him straight in.
TrqstMe putting Freedom Charge though to delay this even longer. Jerky is dropped low, but will get healed back up. Psionic Seduction to try and capitalize. Media M from above, from DRP, finds very little again, as crazykitty is trying to find some isolations, trying to deal with TrqstMe. Finally gets the isolation, finally gets the chase, and with the help of Beetle, they take down Steven, pushing onto the point to melt through the remainders. Like we say, it's time for a cascade, a capitalization, and a capture of the first point if they can break the one last hold of NAVI.
Portal? Anybody switching over towards the Strange from NAVI? It doesn't look like it.
No Portal. They have time. They could, in theory, make it on foot. It looks like they're going to try that.
Keep it saved. NAVI not feeling the stress of this fight just yet. I mean, Chopped sort of flubbed their lines going for a Portal play yesterday in a potential qualifying game against Virtus Pro, dedicating it too early and it not mattering too much in the end. But NAVI, their go button is going to be this fate of both worlds. Level 1 Crook finds that first pick onto crazykitty. It means that Wolverine isn't going to keep Feral leaping his way into pulling this backline into little shreds. Touzii trying to deal with this dive that keeps coming in from TrqstMe, but it's enough of an issue when they lose Beetle and with that Yam amplifier that they're going to back up all the way to spawn. If TrqstMe lets them, frankly.
TrqstMe's just trying to harass them all the way back, but the fact is they've still got 48 seconds left. They could, in theory, go for a Strange if they wanted to, but they'd rather hold on to it. This is Chopped pretty safe here. They burn almost every defensive tool for NAVI, and they are now grouped up on a composition that they like. They've brought out a Human Torch and a Phoenix. They just have to break this first point, and they've got the right tools for it. Oh, and a Stagger.
As Touzii finding the great picks, one of the strategists gone down. Fate and Naga not having any ultimates to maintain this fight if it goes on a bit longer. But the support ult for TrqstMe is going to keep the sustain going. But Touzii is making it count. It pretty much has to be that freedom charge keeping TrqstMe alive. And now it's OT going to be hitting again. Chopped having to do their NAVI cosplay to go and win this fight as we hit the wick.
NAVI is burning every second they can to try and keep this going to still have the Soul Resurgence, which has to be used because TrqstMe is dropped low, retreated to the fight. No, Touzii has that End Song Inferno, which could be used for the defensive invisible boundary, and the Fate of Both Worlds are starting to get staggered. Once again, overlapped by Chopped. No one found by that Meteor Rim. Again, DRP just cannot target. Touzii is taken down pre the End Song Inferno, and NAVI maybe creating an opening. The Supernova, those that burn brightly, burn out twice as fast as they try to give every second they can. Touzii is going to portal in to buy every extra second. Two are down. NAVI are trying to hold this, but they're running out of bodies. The Cosmic Guard Amplifier expires. The portal comes in, and Chopped are reinforcing. TrqstMe is delaying. Raajaro is holding the line, and Fate is eyes in. What a freeze to buy the extra seconds. Jerky's going to portal back in for the extra reinforcements to keep NAVI on this point as long as they can. Touzii has been able to buy every extra second they can, but with NAVI holding that portal for so long, they're keeping it going. Invisible boundary for Vertigo to give them the extra healing to try and slow them down onto the point. Everyone is still here. BRB, Raajaro, about to fall, barely sustained. Hold on, Yamamoto interrupted, finds no stuns. Touzii falls, and with that, Chopped are barely holding on. Fate of Both Worlds and Freedom Charge to overlap for the bonus health, but there's no health left on that point. If anyone steps off, it could be over, but NAVI are running out of tools. They finally charge up to a Fate of Both Worlds and a Silent Seduction to try and pull them off the point. There's only Raajaro, but Fate of Both Worlds is staggered on in. TrqstMe finally gets taken down. The Human Torch is sieging on him from above. DRP drops low. It's only Beetle on the point. If they get taken off, it's over. crazykitty from above is trying to set it up, trying to drop the damage, but there's no tools left. Beetle is taking him down. NAVI have nothing left to defend with.
How on earth does Chopped hold on for that one? They ran out of everything, and every ultimate that they got. DRP, the Meteor M, he was 10 HP, he got deleted. Touzii, he had the Eye of Agamotto, he was 10 HP, tried to use it, he got deleted. There was no ultimate follow-ups from Chopped. It was just Beetle running in as Captain America, punching their living daylights out of them, and then switching over to Groot as we get onto the second checkpoint. The overtimes feel as long as the actual maps themselves, Tetra. This is crazy.
NAVI, they see that finish line. They just have to take down Chopped. They have to stop this car. It was a sliver of overtime, but Chopped just won't go down. The Jerky falls. Freedom Charge has to be used, but crazykitty is carving a path of flame through for Chopped to try and get onto that next point, trying to chase down TrqstMe, who once again is able to flee. But while they are causing a lot of chaos in the backline, what are they doing to stop the car right now?
Silent Seduction for Raajaro. He's farmed up a good amount of these in these fights, but level 1 Kruk gets taken out. He's just been the full focus of Touzii, it feels like, as he springs up onto the picks, onto all of NAVI. You've got Naga trying to come in with the Kraken's impact, but it's pretty much silenced. It's a murmur on the ground as Touzii is putting this series into his back pocket, and he's pushing on to make sure that NAVI can't contest second.
Raajaro's on Angela to try and rush in, to touch, to buy time. Frozen, locked down, bopped, but they bought seconds. Now here comes Psylocke, also taken down, and it's the slow trickle of one by one. They have to burn Fate of Both Worlds to try and delay this, but what is the end game here? You just lost 2 people. You're taking a 6 versus 4, and the result is incredibly predictable.
You can't let Chopped build up this momentum. But I wanted to highlight again, in these fights now, where NAVI are trying to reset, you can see crazykitty looking for the spawns if he can catch any of these defenders trying to leave. But DRP finds those first eliminations every single time. NAVI are just trying to farm up some ultimates, posture themselves, get Jerky into position on the Psylocke, and then DRP is able to connect onto Raajaro, onto TrqstMe, onto Fate. in just these fights where he's throwing out pot shots more than anything. But he has the Meteor M, which is the biggest pot shot that you can have. But there's a lot for Chop to be using here to keep the momentum going, including a Strangling Prison for Beetle. It's going to force out the Dance of the Butterflies on the other side, but Fate goes down.
crazykitty is doing a lot of damage in that backline, creating a bit of an opening. Raajaro finds Vertigo off on the flank, but crazykitty is chasing down all the split members of NAVI, doing huge work. Ensong Inferno does not find a target, but crazykitty continues to do so, creating openings, chasing back. There's the finish line. That is the lead for Chopped in sight right now.
And we're seeing Navi playing scared, but it's also very secure. They don't want to overextend. They don't want to make any mistakes now. Otherwise, that's Chopped being on series point and qualifying point to Atlanta instead of the world champions that won the last international event. Touzii finds himself now going to overextends to try and go in for the barrage. He was 10% away from having a Galactic Legend Tetcher. He overextends, maybe gets greedy, and that's a 6 versus 5 in favor of Chopped.
It's a fast rollout though. Visible Boundary going to be traded for the fate of both worlds. Psionic Seduction from Raajaro. Touzii is taking cover. Blows up Jerky again. The damage output from this Phoenix is insane. Galactic Legend was finally built up, and it's a fast rollout character. Starlord onto the point, but another hold. Vertigo with the Invisible Boundary traded for Fate's fate of both worlds this time. He's Strangling Prison. Freedom Charge to give them the extra help to try and sustain on through this, but Touzii is building up towards an ornament, but with Vertigo down and Mash down, there's nothing left to sustain. Ryan Chopped with inches to go are shut down, and NAVI are gonna take the lead.
And there's no chance for a portal from Matt. She was trying to get there. And the adjustment from NAVI, just as we're sort of looking at going and talking about Touzii especially, but crazykitty had some great moments. Jerky goes, "Do you guys forget about me?" And comes in with one of the most clutch Dance of the Butterflies that we've seen so far this tournament.
Jerky was targeted so many times. It literally just took one though, because Touzii can't be everywhere at once. Touzii is and the Jeff available. Do they prioritize one? Both, potentially, if they want to play something a bit more aggressive? We'll have to wait and see as we are loading into what could be the final map of this series if NAVI are able to take it. Or if Chopped win, then my throat is going to suffer and we're
videos because I'm going to need it after this series. Both teams are, and Chopped especially. One more loss and their season is done. And NAVI booked themselves into Atlanta alongside VP and Citadel.
sacrifice our bodies for the love of the game, as the fast rollout with that Jeff movement speed allows the side of Chops to take the early control and try and set up a choke point for NAVI in that main doorway. TrqstMe eating a lot of shots. Jerky's on the flank. He's brought out the Wolverine. Gene is able to catch Logan on the flank.
Is just a brawl between the Groots. Beetle, I think, has actually been winning out against TrqstMe. I think TrqstMe's had a better day on all of the Vanguards, but Beetle has not been afraid of having these branches hit each other, taking swipes. Level 1 Crook, he's going to take out the Groot in the end, though. There was just too much forward damage, and even with DRP having a protection onto Magneto, the Bulwark and the Metallic Curtain, it isn't enough to block the damage that Navi's throwing in, now that they have Naga over on the Phoenix.
They finally got Jean Grey herself. It's been sort of forgotten about with the rise of Star-Lord, and now it is time to remember just how powerful the primordial life essence of the Phoenix Force is, as they try and set up a defensive perimeter with Jerky looking for flanks, looking for anyone who steps out of position, high grounds. Any chance they can get to isolate someone is going to be hugely important, and of course they have that team up.
Seeing if he can get a little bit of extra healing and make it very uncomfortable for Chop to go in for these fights. Jerky versus crazykitty is going to be the Wolverine head-to-head. Haven't seen many of those, but it pretty much is going to be these fists all fighting onto the point. Even a couple of melee picks for Naga as he's getting those resets on from the melee attacks themselves. Not going to be useful in the future, but so long as they're useful now, Navi will take it.
This is a solid setup for NAVI. You can see crazykitty on that Wolverine to try and counteract themselves, but has yet to find an impact that is really setting them up well. Naga's held on to their own Ensong Inferno for this entire time. This is right now NAVI just in full control. We have an almost exactly mirrored draft, but it seems that EMEA is making a pretty solid difference so far.
It has so far. Every single map that we've seen for Navi play, they've had the EMEA. Chopped have not. It's put so much strain on DRP and Beetle in that Vanguard line, but they have to make do. The Strangling Prison from TrqstMe was used, but I don't think there's too much of a follow-up. It is going to force out the Eternal Bond, however, from MASH. More to just keep the aura into their favor, and a pick, at least for Chopped, is good. But it reminds me of Krakoa earlier texture, where it's looking to be Navi getting to 99%, just as Chopped are able to take it.
That's going to be a triple. Naga, Fade, and Crook go down as they set that up beautifully. And that was 100% down to DRP. Wolverine tried to pick up Beetle, but the Iron Bulwark protected them, allowing Beetle to land that Strangling Prison. Chopped, they flip it on 99, but now they have to hold for there's still an Endsong Inferno, there's still a last stand. This is Navi having a very tough job ahead of them to try and recapture this.
Thanks for the boost.
It's really nerve-wracking now for Chopped, and whilst DRP hasn't quite connected with some of those Meteor M's, I think it was 0 and 5 that he managed over on Midtown to connect onto eliminations. Every other bit of the Magneto kit has been perfect. Naga now seeing if he can go for the slam. It's not going to be coordinated with TrqstMe having his own Meteor M. That's not available yet, but it might set up the last stand. I think it's come out on both sides. crazykitty holding onto his, actually, but he gets absolutely devastated from TrqstMe. He gets knocked to the ground, and that's 2 players down for Chopped in a 4v6 to fight for the point. The RP's having to get off of the Magneto. He doesn't get the ultimate because he has to go Strange.
Fate has done something they have done so many times before and said, I'll do it myself. Going in with an Eternal Bond in that cloak form with a Terror Cape and then just starting to take out backliners. They do this so often and it works so consistently. Portal forced out from DRP to return the team to the point and holding that timer, but they can't get around the portal. They're stuck in this tight area. They are literally stuck. They have to wait for it to expire, but did everyone even make it onto the point? They're trapped in a tight-knit area. Beetle stacks up onto the Strangling Prison, though, with the Eternal Bond from MASH to buy time. Meteor from TrqstMe not finding the point. Invisible Boundary to buy a little bit of extra time. Strangling Prison holding them onto the point as crazykitty pushes on in. They last stand in. They're able to take out Naga. Counter from Jerky to burn on through, but crazykitty is able to sustain and get the counter push. Jerky falls, and it looks like Chopped may be able to hold this, Ryan.
But they have to still take it. That's the problem. This is in the hands of Navi, so this is a progression made for Chopped. It was everything that they had to keep that fight alive. But it was still just 99% in favor of Navi. Now they've switched things around, and it was very close for DRP backfiring with the portal play. But that position was great to just let people get up and be allowed. Once the portal drops, Beetle almost explodes out as the group, puts a wall down, makes it a bit more of an awkward brawl for Navi. They don't have any ultimates to bank on yet, but Naga's very close to having an Endsong Inferno, the one ultimate that Touzii held on to.
Going to try and buy as much time as they can with Endsong Inferno coming on in from above, but Fate immediately with the Eternal Bond to keep the team topped up, and Naga is built up to their own Endsong Inferno to buy every extra second. DRP has that Eye of Agamotto, though. That is the main crowd control in this setup, but with Touzii down, what's the follow-up? crazykitty is going to have to go crazy on this to buy extra time. Jerky takes out DRP. They lost the crowd control. Beetle stacked up towards an Strangling Prison for extra time. The point is flipped in favor of Navi with DRP falling down, no portal available. He's just going to make his way back in on foot, which is a slow walk, but it could give them the stun they need if he arrives. But with Beetle falling, crazykitty falling, and Jerky continuing to go wild on the point, taking down the duelists. MASH is able to be taken down, and it's all down to Touzii trying to roll, trying to duck, trying to weave. DRP makes it back, but there's no way they're going to get that Eye of Agamotto off.
They just didn't have enough. But Chopped having ultimates is a good thing because it means for this second point that they have stuff like the Eye of Agamotto, Invisible Boundary to take the point first. Something that they haven't managed at all in these domination maps. Navi very close here, and it does feel like this first fight on the point, because Navi have set themselves up so nicely on domination, is absolutely everything. DRP moving away from the Doctor Strange. The Eye of Agamotto is not going to be in use. He's gone back to the Magneto to build himself up halfway towards a Meteor M.
Jerky does a little bit of aura farming on the way, so they can set themselves up. Like you say, DRP setting back up for another Meteor M, sacrificing the Eye of Agamotto. They want to save Portal because it's still on cooldown, so they don't really want to be on Strange at this stage. Sarnik's deduction to open this up with Meteor M following. You're going to be blocked out by the metallic curtain, though.
There's the invisible boundary. Chop not losing any numbers, but maintaining some control on the point. But it's given up again to NAVI. They're able to just steal it away from them.
They're keeping control, but Chops are still going to be able to duel on this, still going to be able to contest. Jerky knocked back. Beautifully done there by the mag cannon of DRP as they're trying to give every extra second they can. Naga has the Endsong Inferno, though Jerky has the last stand. crazykitty has their own, and Touzii is charging up, and there it is, last stand, diving onto the point, but Jerky cannot find the finishing blow.
This is where the fight's not look too bad for Chop. They're not losing players, but they're not gaining picks either. This neutral is only going to suit NAVI, and the last stand for crazykitty trying to find something, but it just doesn't really connect. DRP, we don't see many of these ultimates come through. It connects onto the target, but it doesn't lead to an elimination. Chopped are just not showing up in the kill feed in the slightest. NAVI are holding on as they hit 50%.
They got the dagger storm out before the group wall blocked them off, but they still need to try and break on through, keep the team topped up, and they're taking a lot of damage from Touzii. But Touzii getting harassed by Jerky here, who tries to escape, tries to take some cover, but they are on point. There's the flip at 57%, and Chopped, they seem to have calmed down. They seem to have been, they were playing quite stressed at the very beginning of this round, but they calmed down and took a fairly solid neutral fight.
It's not surprising, really. I think we're all a little bit stressed with how this is going. Chopped, I don't know if Beetle was holding on to that strangling prison for that long. He had it right at the start of this map point. Has it again. That combination with the Endsong Inferno could be enough, but it just feels that these kind of like big slam ultimates aren't really leading into like multi-kills onto NAVI. Endsong Inferno slamming on down. It just, nobody goes down to low HP from NAVI. It's that invisible boundary from Kruk that keeps everybody going. And then Jerky in the backline manages to catch Touzii off the back of his ultimate being used.
Raajaro's wrapping around, looking for an opportunity to put some pain onto DRP and onto those strategists, and already the damage comes out. Beetle, drop low, DRP coming in, Vertigo and Mash are putting in the work to keep them topped up. Jerky gets sniped though. Fade is once again having to keep the team topped up with an eternal bond, and we get NAVI flipping it back. 59% to 54 in their favor. DRP going to be the first to respawn, sticking with the Magneto. They don't need to strange yet. There's still time. Don't panic. But already NAVI are creeping their way towards Atlanta.
And some information too. I think Beetle Strangling Prison was interrupted there because he's got another one, unless he was absolutely farming that one as quickly as he might have done. It's crazy, but it's more crazy that Chopped are not getting any eliminations off the back of these big ultimates being farmed up. Somebody needs to be the difference. Usually it's Touzii, but it's not fair to put it all on him. We need to see a bit more, but that Silent Seduction is going to stop anything from coming through. Again, a Meteor M not connecting onto anything. NAVI are all still alive and unharmed.
It's got to be Touzii or Fate who's MVP this time, because that was another Dark Force teleport to block everything out. Jerky is looking for targets on the backline, but Touzii is able to find level 1 Kruk, removing the healing output from NAVI, reducing it significantly. Touzii also just built up towards that Endsong Inferno for their last turnaround, and Jerky is not sustaining through this, getting melted off the board. Chopped are flipping it again, 99% to 56, and all Chopped have to do is hold to even up this map and put themselves back in the game.
And there's 4 ultimates that they've managed to hold on to, which is great. It was just a Strangling Prison and a Meteor M. You're right, like the use of Cloak and Dagger right at the depth here to just dodge all of these big slams that are coming down, whether it's a big metallic ball from Magneto, a Phoenix diving down, or even just a Wolverine leaping into the action. It's a lot more concentrated firepower into one particular spot, and NAVI trying to get through this choke is being forced back from Chopped, but they have an axe to grind. They want to try and get us to a 5th map in this best of 5 and not go out here. But it's all about not being picked off as Jerky is looking to find that opening pick again.
What could be the last gasp, last stand, last pick, but they can't find it. Vertigo with the invisible boundary is keeping Chopped in this setup. Meteor from TrqstMe trying to chase down Touzii, who evades it with the free flight. The Endsong Inferno from Naga is not able to find the right target, but Raajaro takes out Touzii before they can get their own Endsong. They might have to sacrifice it here just to portal back to the point, because their tournament life is on the line. We lose Beetle, and Touzii takes the jump. They have to do it because it's all that's left. Naga is dropped low, but it's holding on to the point. crazykitty is going to be taken out. They buy every extra second they can as the portal comes in, blocking Naga off a little bit with the extra damage. But the psionic seduction, they can't reach. It's over. NAVI takes game number 4, and they are have punched their ticket to the global finals.
Chopped have been cutting their way through some of the best teams in EMEA, but if you're going for the world champions, you better not miss. There were close hits from them, but just NAVI, they have a crown to protect, and they weren't going to let themselves go out of this easily. A 3-1 win for them in this best of 5 means that it's going to be all of the organizations, the big dogs at least from EMEA, head into an international event. As Chopped, you have to give them their flowers.